Hello, everybody, and welcome to another conversation with Sales and Marketing Mastery with JCW. And I want to welcome Doug Moffit today on a conversation about networking. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but I'm going to say it was Doug and I guess we keep crossing paths a little bit. Met him through a Cirrus networking group, and he'll talk a little bit about that through church. And then recently, I actually attended, and he invited me to a lunch and learn on networking. And I just thought it was such a great conversation. I wanted to be able to share it with all of you. So, Doug, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, first off, thank you very much for inviting me. It's exciting to be here today. I'm really happy to share what I can around networking. I've basically had two halves to my career. I've spent 20 years, my first half as a Northwestern Mutual financial representative, financial advisor. And I still do carry an insurance license, but I got rid of my securities. I just realized I was being called to something different. And so at 45, and after I read a book called Halftime, I started the Moffit Group. And I really had no idea what the Moffit Group was going to do. And my younger daughter teased me that it couldn't be called that because it was just me. But now I've realized it is appropriate because I have a group of services, if you will. I'm a leadership coach now with several active one-on-one clients. I have 3 active CirrusNet teams that I facilitate. After I was a member of a group like that, representing Northwestern for 9 years, I've gotten to know the owner, Steve Ziskowski, and I just really enjoy. I just came from that today. I had 14 people at my Brighton team. I've got an Ann Arbor team and a Detroit team, and I just love them all, and I'm having a ball with that. And then I picked up a tennis coaching job about 7 years ago. My buddy who teaches at Heartland High School, where we both went, said, "Hey, I know you got a little bit of time in your calendar." It was funny. People were teasing me like, "I heard you retired," and I said, "No, like the opposite. Like I don't really believe in traditional retirement. I believe in financial independence, which is working because you want to and not because you have to." And I was trying to get ahead of that a little bit. And so he said, "Hey, the JV boys coach job is open in the fall." This was the fall of 2018. I was like, "Well, I'll give that a try. Why not? It's just a couple of months." And so that season has turned into now this that I just started last Monday with the girls up in Heartland is my 12th season.
Oh, wow. So,
And I love doing that. I spoke to the parents last night. I do a little bit of speaking too, and I spoke to I think 35 or so parents last night, just trying to share as much as I could about what a tennis season looks like and how to navigate it and how we can all enjoy it and be better off. So it's interesting we're talking about networking today because I will take you back to my dad, who
mhm.
was an insurance agent, which is mostly how I got involved in that business to begin with. Um, he used to just invite me. He would go out. He was very active himself. Like I remember, I was just having this memory, and I haven't shared this in a long time. But do you remember Boblo
I
Island?
I do, yes.
Okay. So way back in the day when Boblo was still healthy and active and going, my dad, I think, and I'm pretty sure it was when he was a part of a group because we have a Scottish heritage for our family, and he was involved in a group called the St. Andrews Society. And the St. Andrews Society used to have some event on Boblo Island. And so he would take me over there. We'd get on the Boblo boat and go
Mhm.
over there, and he'd do his thing, and then I'd get to ride on like 1 or 2 rides. We did those swings, those like big hanging swing thing. I
Yeah.
remember that, right? Yeah. But my dad, like, he planted those seeds and like he loved, and he mostly did it like as an income producing, like he was pretty active. Like he wanted to go to church and because he knew that he'd meet some people that might become customers. And I realized like I didn't ever want to do it that way. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I've just come to realize that networking is just so powerful in all areas and aspects of our lives and really leads to what I think most people are looking for, which is dynamic relationships, healthy relationships, and connections, and this idea of community and being
Mhm.
connected. I just think that really leads to our quality life at the end of it, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
sort of thing. It's like It's about the quality of your relationships. And so to me, that's where networking now, it is important from a business standpoint as well. There's a lot of different, and you're an expert in this. And how do you market your business? How do you promote your business? Now with technology, there's umpteen different ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But in an organization like SiriusNet, where I still say regularly, we believe in word of mouth referrals, that they still work, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
my friend Roger last Monday, he said, "Hey, if you know of a graphic designer, I need a graphic designer."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I do." On Tuesday, I saw Katie, who I just saw, and I just formally passed this referral. I said, "You do graphic design work? Because I have a friend who might be interested." And before I made a formal introduction, I checked and made sure it was okay with both of them to do the introduction. And then yesterday, I finally sent the virtual email,
Mm-hmm.
Roger, here's Katie. Katie, this is Roger. I did share contact on the phone, and they're meeting today at 3 o'clock. And I just
Yeah.
I love doing it. It makes me happy. It's
Right.
it's very fulfilling to me. I don't And then when you can get to a point, which I teach this and I'm trying to live it out myself, where you give that sort of connection and introduction without expecting anything in return,
Right.
that have that, Ivan Meisner, who's the founder of BNI, called it the giver's gain, um, which kind of contradicts that a little bit. But Adam Grant wrote a book called Give and Take, which really talks about that. Why do we give? Do we give like selfishly, so that we're waiting, okay, now that person owes us something. But I
Right.
really believe in cultivating, I heard Simon Sinek say this recently, cultivating a heart of generosity. And so that you just, as I kind of say, like you open up your so-called Rolodex, or, on
Mm-hmm.
our little devices here, where everybody can go in and look, how many contacts do you have? Oh, and like how open and available are we making that to other people that we know, right? And how active are we, like in the lunch and learn that day, when I talked about like how good are we at asking other people, like, who are you looking to meet right now? What would be a good connection for you? What's a challenge that's in front of you right now that somebody might be able to help you with, right? I just read a book earlier this year called Who Not How by a guy named Dan Sullivan and co-author Benjamin Hardy. And they said, so many of us, especially, hardworking type A, like go-getter type people, we have a lot of goals, right? And so often in those goals, we ask ourselves, how am I going to achieve this goal? And really the twist in that book is to ask ourselves, who can help me achieve
Achieve
this
that
goal?
goal. Mm-hmm.
Right? And when you surround yourself with other people and when you're actively asking for help, which so many of us struggle with, right? It's like, I
Mm-hmm.
can do it. I can do it. I think just the world of opportunities kind of opens up. And as we say, like good things happen when you're on that sort of track and then you're being consistent about it as you build it in to
And
your calendar, and you just get good about being parts of different groups and reaching out to people. I talk all the time about pinging constantly. When somebody comes to your mind, there's usually a reason for that,
mm-hmm.
right? And so shoot them a text, shoot them a call. Oh my gosh, give them
Right.
a call, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, right. Actually talk live instead of, I mean, text, I mean, believe me, texts are okay too, right? But just
yeah,
having that face to face, because
yeah,
you said a couple things that reminds me of some conversations I've had with some um, uh, either clients or potential clients. They're like, we are really struggling with lead generation because really everything we get is just from referrals. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that
yeah,
is amazing.
yeah.
That's the best, that is the best lead you can get.
That's right.
I mean,
That's
it
right.
really, really is. Because, and I know you said this in the Lunch and Learn, and I've said it a lot too. You do business with people you know, like, and trust. And then I like to add
Yeah.
in, and are a little bit like you.
And
Because
are a little bit like you.
yeah,
Yeah. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's a great add-in. And there's just so much truth to that. And yeah, I love that. So I don't know, did that help? Oh, what
Yeah.
I was going to say. So that first it started with my dad. And then of course he introduced me to the game of hockey, which I've been playing my entire life, skating since I was 4. As part of being a hockey team, now they do things differently. You have like your Little Caesars fundraiser kits and stuff. But back in the day, we used to go door to door and sell stuff like LCHA hockey, Livingston County Hockey Association. We used to have like these license plate, like a license plate, what do you call them? Holder, right? I mean, I sold that. I sold raffle tickets. Like I got used to going out and sharing an opportunity with people
Mhm.
right? Like, hey, would you like to buy this or not? Are you interested? And I think learning at an early age, like it was okay to hear no, right? And not taking it personally and just saying, okay, I'll go to the next door,
Right. Yeah,
knock on that
it's
one,
not
and
for you.
yeah,
Right.
hopefully they say yes. There's a mantra I learned years ago. I went through a wonderful training system, sales training specifically called Sandler Sales Institute. And Sandler
Mm-hmm.
Sales Training. Jerry Weinberg and Associates was my teacher, and I still keep in touch with him. There's a guy in Ann Arbor named Joe Marr I'm good friends with. And one of the mantras there is SW3N, which means some will, some won't, so what next?
Oh, love it. I don't think I've heard that.
Oh my God, such a
That's
good
perfect.
one. And
Yeah.
then there's some add-ons to that one, like stop whining is another SW. And then last SW I've learned since then is someone's waiting.
Oh.
Someone's waiting for your call, right? And it's like, what do we operate with that sort of expectation and just hope? I guess maybe there's some hope and there's an element of positivity in there as well. It's like, no, there's people out there who need what I have, right?
That's right. And if you're not out there, and if you're not out there trying to get them, then you're almost doing a disservice to them.
That's right. That's right.
So
There's a lot of
you
there's a
get it.
lot of good people who want to do business with people they know, like, and trust, and are kind of like too.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
great. Now, one of the things that because I'm all, when I go through my 9 steps in marketing, we talk about a number of different things: setting goals,
mm,
measuring them, right? Because it's important to find those key success factors, or the KPIs, right? Of
yeah,
what everything we do. I mean, so yeah, we might have a big, a huge dollar volume goal that we're going to get to, but there's a lot of actions and things that you got to do to get there, and networking being one of them. And it's not always happenstance. So can you share a little bit more about like setting those goals and keeping track of them?
yeah, absolutely. That was taking what I learned from my dad, and then when I got into in the insurance business when I was 25 years old, it was funny. He sat me down one day before I even started and did a really nice summary of it for me. And I was like so nervous, like, how do you do this? I was worried about like having to close people, like doing hard closes and making them sign on the dotted line whether they wanted to or not. And he was like, no, 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 no. He said, just go out and meet people, meet lots of people, right? Tell them what you do, then ask them some really good questions. And if it's appropriate, like if you uncover a need and you discover a need, then you go back to your office and you then eventually meet with them again and you present a proposal. Here's how I can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you follow up with them. And then I was like, well, so when do you hard close them? He's like, no, you don't have to necessarily do that. And that worked really well. And the final thing he said was, and just be a resource for them. Right. And I've shared that with so many people. That's Don Moffit. God, may he rest in peace. He's been gone since 2011, but that's a valuable tool. One of my coaching clients like still says that, like, thank your dad that he taught us, be a resource for people. Cause it really I think it takes pressure off of people to
Mm-hmm.
think like, oh, I got to go in there and make this sale or do this transaction. It's like, no, be more like a consultant, ask really good questions, be curious, and then, if you have something that you think you can do, then go back and say, well, here's what would look like for us to solve that problem for you,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Having that problem solving. Now, so then when I started, I was like, okay, that sounds pretty reasonable. It helped me alleviate a little bit of fear probably that I had. Then I went to Northwestern and they taught us the one card system, which is a gentleman who was a really successful agent in Chicago. His name was Al Granum, and Northwestern implemented this system. And then actually that Al Granum one card system, like a bunch of other big insurance companies like Prudential and some of the big ones you've heard of, they borrowed it too because it was all centered around activity, this idea of activity, right? And they would say, like, he boiled it down. He called his book The Art and Science of Client Building. So the science to it was when they said to a new person, like they said to me, Doug Moffit, when you come in, you bring 100 names with you. Now, this is one of the things that people don't like about certain organizations, right? Is that you got to call your friends and family, which I ended up not doing because I didn't feel comfortable doing it. But the science was still the same. They said for every 10 names that you bring in here, the science is 3 of them will meet with you. The other 7 will say, sorry, don't want any. You're a nice person, but get
Not
lost.
interested. Yeah.
Right? 10, 3 was they'll meet with you and one person will become a client.
And you know
So,
what's interesting because we have I have like a in my process we talk about the same very thing
mm,
with your audience, and we say one will become your customer right now.
that's right.
Those other two may,
That's right.
who's not right now.
That's right. Love it. Yep. And so we used to say timing and chemistry, and that's why then they taught there's a follow-up system, right? And if people didn't do business, you'd say things have a way of changing, and when they do, I'd like for you to think of me. Would it be okay for me to follow up with you? And the way we do that is on your birthday or on your half birthday. And it was
Mm,
cheesy, but it actually really worked, and it just
yeah, that's
cultivated,
good.
right? And they said so just activity, activity, activity. So 40 dials a day or whatever it was, is just, are you in, like you were saying earlier before we started, like, you can't manage what you don't measure. And so if you don't know how many calls you made in a week or how many times you asked for a referral, or before that, kind of getting ahead of myself, you don't have a goal for what that should be,
Hmm.
then you're kind of operating without what again Sandler would call a cookbook, right? So many sales organizations they're flying by the seat of their pants and they're hoping that they get some people, but they're not keeping track. And it's kind of simple. It takes a little bit of work, but it's
It,
fun. And so now it's just become part of what I do, and now what I love sharing with people in the consistency of it, right? Because then there's a motivation factor. We get busy, we forget about that part. We're so busy like trying to do the business or put out fires or a combination of both. We're like, oh my God, I haven't made any phone calls in a while, or I haven't prospected in a while. I haven't gone to an event. And so you really, I think the better you get at the craft, and especially if you like it, then
hmm.
you're consistent with doing the things that you need to do. That makes sense.
So yeah, and you just said something, if you like it, but if you
Mm,
don't like it, um, and I get this from people just saying, well, I'm kind of an introvert, and it's
yeah,
like, well, honestly, you don't have the best thing, and you just said this earlier, you got to listen. You don't,
right.
this is a gift for you. You just get to ask a couple key questions
Yeah.
and just listen.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to be a talker. Like I think the traditional, I love that movie. Remember the movie Groundhog Day with Bill
Hmm.
Murray,
Hmm.
where there's the one guy, the insurance guy who chases him around, Ned Ryerson, and I think people kind of have that still to this day have like a kind of a snake oil salesman, sort of like he's
Here.
going to try and
Right.
talk me into this, right?
Mhm.
And you're right. I mean, there are so many people I've met, and I probably feel this way myself, that I love asking questions, getting to know people, and
Hmm.
figuring out if I can help them or not. And if not, then let's stay in touch. Let's stay connected, and maybe there's somebody I can introduce you to.
Right. What?
And knowing, like you said, that our paths have cross, and this sort of, call it karma or call it destiny or fate.
Mhm.
I believe God is kind of has his hands in my business, and I'm really working for him, which is a really neat place to have gotten to in my life. I'm just trying to do good work out there and cultivate and make as many great relationships happen and connections happen as I can.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Can you because you talked about SiriusNet, and there's a lot of different networking groups out there, but will you touch
Mhm.
on, for those people that aren't a part of a networking group, tell them
Mhm.
what they're missing out on.
Yeah, I think the first thing that pops into mind is well, I'll go back to, I'll piggyback on the consistency piece. It's
Mhm.
being, people often say this is like, if you're not top of mind, right, you're out of sight, out of mind.
Mhm.
So I think whether it's SiriusNet or BNI or the business builders at your chamber, there are so many different ways, but it's meeting with people regularly on on a consistent basis, and continuing to educate them, and just busy doing their thing, right? We get stuck in our ruts, and we're, like I said earlier, we're putting out fires and we're really got our blinders on. But the better that you can share those things and have people kind of, I say, I borrowed it from, I think it's in the book Go Giver, building an army of walking ambassadors for yourself. Like
Mm,
just having more and more people who know what you do so that when they're out and about, if they hear of something like, oh my gosh, I remember him saying that in a meeting, like if somebody's going through a transition or maybe are looking for a new career, like they should call, whether it's Doug or Kathy King or Jeff Waterman, they should call a coach, right? They
right,
should have somebody who can guide them through that. Like just that's one of those little triggers, if you will, or one of those things that I want to have people listening for so that they'll think of me.
right.
Um, but yeah, those groups, and I'll tell you what, those groups, because we stuck in there. So not only is there the business aspect, but so many of my members tell me they appreciate the support, the encouragement that you get from other people who are doing the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some days you might not be having a good day, but if you walk into that room and it's a positive, energetic experience, that's my goal always is to have them walk out better than they walked in, right? And okay, that was helpful. I needed to hear that. I needed a little bit of shift, mind shift,
Mm-hmm.
or a little pep in my step so I can, all right, now I can look at the day a little bit differently and maybe get some things done rather than have a pity party for myself.
Right. And you can tell your daughter that those are part of your group, right?
Yes, yes.
You have a group and it's same, I mean, obviously, same thing, we have some similarities. My background was in the airline business, so led a global team, and then after 22 years just decided that I needed to keep my feet on the ground because I was traveling around the world with the team. It was fun, loved it, don't get me
Mm,
wrong. It was a great, but it was time to just stop, and went off on built JCW, and it's iterated its names too, just different from, business solutions to marketing and communication. And then because I had such a strong sales background, couldn't keep my fingers out of it and decided just to own it, right? So
yeah.
so kind of pulled that into it. But really, like you said, having those networks of people to help you. But because I used to work in a big organization that we sort of held each other accountable, and
Mm,
I'm pretty good at holding myself accountable, but I've found accountability partners through as well through
yeah,
other groups that I've joined, and just
yeah.
having that person, like, we have our numbers, and we start off our meeting just like, okay, how many meetings, how many speaking engagements, how many, you know what I mean, just to help us keep our eye on those goals and get it going. And yes, when I have a challenge, I, you know, I have people that I can actually bounce some of those challenges off of
That's
and
right.
get through. And like you said, I just feel like, God's really working in our lives and connecting us with those people
Yeah.
that are helping.
Yeah. And so I encourage, whether it's, no matter what group it is, if people haven't gone to something like that, I encourage people to go visit one and go try it out, or go check out a few different ones, right? And see if you like it, see what the experience is like, see if it does motivate you and help you, and create a place. It's not meant to be, I think, the lone spot for marketing, but it
Right,
should be a complement, right? It should be part of a marketing plan
right,
that brings in, because again, back to that one card system idea, and I draw this picture all the time for people. It's pretty basic, but it's like the funnel. It's like you're
hmm,
pouring names into the funnel, and it's the 10-3-1 thing. Just that's it's a game of numbers. There's a financial advisor named Nick Murray wrote a book called The Game of Numbers, and whether people like thinking about it that way or not, it's a little bit. And so that goes to the whether you like it and whether you're good at the game,
hmm,
right? Whether you're okay with playing the game. So that's why I'm big into like the mental training aspect of that, and just getting better and better at that every day.
right. And it's really good. It's not just, people might think of it as a small business owner or salespeople networking, but really it goes to every level within an organization, right?
Hmm.
Because you
Yeah,
don't know how that connection can help you with some other problems or issues at the highest level within,
yeah,
like CEOs, like, of larger corporations, they
yeah,
connect. I'm actually part of a group. It's a Vistage group,
yeah,
and those, it's another form of networking, and those CEOs are connecting with each other, sharing their problems in a very
yeah,
confidential way,
yeah.
and really just trying to, you know help make right decisions. And it's
Mm.
it's just fun, especially when you can help, like you said, help
Mm,
connect, help connect those dots. So
right.
that's
Yeah.
great. Well,
Cool.
Doug, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, just
Oh my
why don't
gosh.
you share really quick how people can get in touch with you? Maybe, from your services, or maybe come in and check out one of your SiriusNet groups, and that'd be great.
Absolutely. Probably the easiest way is on LinkedIn. Just look me up on LinkedIn and send me a invitation to connect. Pretty active on there, pretty regularly.
Uh-huh.
Or Doug at themoffitgroup.us.
Okay.
And my website is themoffitgroup.us, and it's Moffat.
AT. Right. Okay.
That's how
Perfect.
my Scottish people call, that's how we spelled it, Moffat.
AT. Right. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And you said, okay, just to remind people, you have Brighton, Ann Arbor, Detroit,
Yep,
but really even SiriusNet goes further too. So I mean, you could connect them with another group if they're not local.
absolutely. Yeah, there's over 20 teams in the Metro Detroit area, and some of them are in person. All three of mine are in person. There's a few that are in person, and there's a bunch that are on Zoom as well.
Okay.
So if people are interested, they can go to www.cirrusnet, CAERUSNET.com,
Okay.
cirrusnet.com. And there's actually like a team locations and directory in there where you can see where all the teams are in Metro Detroit.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you
I enjoyed it.
participating and sharing, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for having me.